This is the fastest way to make on-brand carousels in 2026. And no, you don't need any extra AI tools or Canva or a subscription like Higgsfield. Well, it may help, yes, but you don't need it. All you need is just one tool, and that is Claude. So in this video, I'm gonna break down my process on how I get on-brand carousels in literally minutes in bulk for my clients. So we've all been there when we type something like make a carousel on this XYZ topic, right? And then we see some super generic kind of carousel that Claude generates. But the problem is that we are not giving it enough context. So the tool is not the problem, our brief is the problem. You need to have like different kind of design briefs for each client, right? So the way that my process works is that you need to have a brand book or like a brand identity document of sorts for your client. The setup for this part takes roughly 10 to 15 minutes. But once you build this one document, you can literally start creating statics, carousels, thumbnails, whatever it is that you want in literally minutes in bulk for your clients per that brand. The essence, the brand voice, some examples of that said brand voice, the colors. If there's any like multiple kind of themes that you want to play with, you could do that as well. For this particular client, I wanted to do 2 flavors. So we would also have typography, texture, layout, and obviously like logos, images, direction, prompt and production, prompting guidelines as well. Here we can see some brand guidelines of the vision and mission of the company and how we speak here. So again, like we're trying to be as crystal clear as possible in terms of like what is our language, what type of lingo we're using, as well as what are some anti-words as well in here. And here we have the color palette of the 2 flavors. So I just wanted to have it kind of be in a dusk and a night kind of setting. General anatomy of how we're going to position our text and stuff. And here's the example of a carousel, right? And the way that we're kind of structuring it, that the first slide is kind of like the hook or the thumbnail. Like it's the equivalent of a YouTube thumbnail, right? If you can't hook the viewer in the thumbnail, in the first slide of the carousel, you will miss them, of course. So we're putting a lot of effort into the hook. Again, we don't need to generate images for it because you can already do that by having the client's images gallery attached to it. The rest of it is just templates, as you can see. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably gonna ask me, what if I don't have this brand guideline kind of document for my own brand or my client's brands, right? So we're gonna build it out. And again, like once you have this set up, it's gonna take a little bit of time, and for the first time you're gonna make a few mistakes, yes. So we're gonna generate one of these brand guideline documents for one of our clients from scratch. We're gonna use Claude, of course, and then I have a prompt that I'm gonna paste in here. This will be linked in the description, so you can go ahead and copy it from there. But what it does is that it basically interviews you, chats back and forth with you to get all the information out of you in context of getting the right fonts in place, asking you a few reference images of your client or the type of images that they wanna go for, what their brand is all about, what is their voice, what are the content pillars. And again, this is the part that's gonna be like a 10 to 15 minute kind of setup. But after that, the hard part will be over and you'll be able to generate literally tens and tens of carousels and statics and thumbnails literally in minutes. Okay, so it's asking me the question about the brand's name and then their exact Instagram handle or whatever it is. Maybe it's LinkedIn or whatever it is that you wanna do, what they do, who's the audience, the one core message or like transformation that we're trying to convey from this brand, right? So if you have like a reference or inspiration kind of page that you want to copy off of, you can also plug that in there as well. But for me, I'm going to paste in some information about my client. So it would be able to get their handle from there. And then also I would just copy some information from the website and then their vision documents to just give them sort of an idea of what the brand is and what they do, right? So it's a done for you social media content and ads agency, and their target audience is founders who want to grow their brands on social media and get leads from it. And then I'm also going to paste in a case study that this business did. This is great because I already have all this information on the client, but like you'll have to interview your client or you have to do a deep dive on whatever it is that your client actually does. This is a case study for another client and they're diagnosing the problem, what they actually did, and what they did to actually solve his problem. Again, like the more information you put in there, the better. And this prompt is gonna be able to just extract the relevant information out of this to make your brand book. So I'm just gonna send it in here. Okay, so we can see here that it extracted the colors, the typography, and the logo as well from here. And it also deduced that the voice is confident and results first. And the audience is coaches, consultants, course creators, local service businesses who want leads. And then secondly, it's asking me for the image of the client And again, like I can put in as many images as I want, so I can build out kind of like a gallery for this. So every time a new thumbnail or carousel gets made, it would just reference that image, right? So I'm just gonna attach these images here, and then I'm gonna say images attached. It's asking me that, do I want the graphic renders through the HTML, which is a plain way of saying basically, is Claude gonna generate these carousels just using images? Or do you want it to actually generate new images using an AI model? And I do have that functionality set up in my workspace, but I'm just gonna skip it because again, we don't need it. So I'm gonna say no image generation model needed. And then it's asking me example carousel length. And I'm just gonna say that it should be varied according to whatever we're talking about. And here we have it. We have the brand book for our client here. So let's just go ahead and take a look. Yeah, I'm looking that it has already got everything in place. The logo, the fonts, the colors, everything is perfect here. And then again, like if you don't have any of this stuff, you can just like dump in some references of what you like from like maybe like Pinterest or Instagram, whatever it is. But obviously you can't put in 3 different conflicting designs in one brand book, right? You have to make sure that you're templatizing in one direction and going full throttle there, because otherwise you're not going to be able to make these in bulk. And so we have like the color system, which is all great. But here, if you're a designer, you know fonts are everything. So if you perhaps don't like the second alternative font that it's giving you, maybe the font pairing is not quite right, you can just go ahead and give it that feedback here. That feedback loop here is really, really important, because otherwise you will get that first output and it'll look really bad and you'll just give up on it. And that's not how it's supposed to be, because the more of an iterative loop that you have with it, the better it's gonna get over time, right? So I'm just gonna go here and see here that it has all the images in place, which is its gallery. And then again, it's saying no AI generated faces, which is fine if you don't want to use AI generated faces, but just make sure that you have like plenty of images. Here are some examples of some statics, and I'm seeing some things are looking great, some things are not looking great. For example, this alternative font here, it is too small and it's barely readable. I'm also noticing here that this like shadow gradient kind of thing over the picture is a bit too drastic. So I'm gonna also say that. And then here's an example of a real thumbnail that it has given us. So it has got the aspect ratio correct, of course. And then also at the same time, it's keeping in mind the negative space that you need to keep in mind for an Instagram thumbnail. And then again, this is a low resolution version that I pasted in just for test purposes. But if you're working on an actual real client, you would have like HD images and you have like raw files and raw files of different kind of frame grabs of their face. And if you don't have those, you would basically like AI generate like a bunch of different poses of them smiling, being sad, being surprised or shocked. It really depends on you. And then here's a QC checklist, which is always great. I'm gonna go ahead and give it that feedback so that it regenerates the brand book. Okay, now let's do one final check, and that looks all good. So we're just gonna ask it to give us all of the final files. And then we can see it has given me a zip file with all the relevant files inside of here. And 2 of them are really important here, which is the PDF, again, which helps us as humans visualize what it has actually built. And then we have that same brand guideline, but in a markdown file, which is just like brandguideline.md, right? This might look redundant, but this is going to help us set up our environment so that every time we generate a new set of carousels or statics or whatever it is, it doesn't have to generate that fresh code from scratch again. And now you can create basically anything in bulk once you have these 2 files. But the problem is that it needs code to generate these. And so every time you're going to paste it into a new chat and generate new statics and carousels, it's gonna build out that code again and again, and it's gonna take a lot of time. So a nice hack is kind of go into the code tab, and you can see right now we're here in the chat. So I'm gonna go into the code tab, and then I'm gonna put in the zip here, and then I'm gonna ask it to set it up in my workspace so that every time I generate something new. And so it's just gonna be able to do it literally in minutes every time you generate a new batch. So I'm gonna download this zip file here, and then here I'm going into a new Claude Code chat. And make sure that you have your workspace set up. If you don't have your workspace set up, just watch some tutorials on it, but having your workspace set up is really important in Claude Code. Otherwise, you would just be manually creating new code every time you punch in some new task, and it's gonna take a long time and it's gonna burn a lot of credits. So I'm gonna put in that zip file that I just created, right? And then I'm gonna ask it to generate some statics, thumbnails, and carousels for me. And so we're gonna see how it does. And here we have it. Our deliverables are ready in just a few minutes, and let's go ahead and check them. If I just go ahead and open this thumbnail, this looks good. So again, like these are some reference images that I put in, but if you have better images and that are more zoomed out, they would probably look much better here, right? And then here is an example carousel here. And you can see that here's a number as well as the swipe button. And then we have all the content here. And again, I just made these using a vague prompt and I didn't give it any copy. But if you're already working with copy, or if you have any copywriting skills installed to actually write out the content of these carousels, you can see how this system will scale very, very fast, right? If I go here in statics, these look great. And if you need statics in a certain aspect ratio, you could also prompt it to have that in the brand book, of course, so that every time you don't have to tweak it, right? So this one I really don't like. I don't know where it got this background from, but I'll probably have to go back into the brand book and tweak to remove this because I never want to see this again, right? And that's pretty much it, the whole system. You can even connect your workspace to frame.io and you could just go ahead and tell it to upload these creatives directly from here. So you could just add your comments and then have those comments be addressed. If you have like a frame.io kind of feedback loop set up here, that would make your job much, much easier as a human to give feedback to this agent and kind of go back and forth in terms of revision rounds, because it's not going to be perfect. So you have to make sure that you give it that feedback. And if you're wondering how you're going to connect it to Frame and how you're going to give it that feedback for that feedback loop, I've made another video on it, so just go ahead and check that out on my channel. And you can see here that it took roughly 3 to 4 minutes. That includes unzipping the file, reading the skill and the brand guidelines and setting it up. And then 10-15 minutes total to write out all that code. But once all of that code is written, you can just generate it in literally 34 seconds, the whole batch. That's how fast it is. So there you have it, that's the whole system. You can take this up a few notches as well. Again, you could set up automations or Claude routines to kind of generate these programmatically every day. You could have the copywriting skills installed to generate the copy. And you could even generate the hook slides using an image generation model by connecting it to a platform like Higgsfield or Fall AI. I've made a video on that as well, so just make sure to check it out. But that's about it for this video. If you got value from this, make sure to leave a like. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure to subscribe. And then I'll see you in the next one. Bye.